What's going on, guys? Thanks for coming to my channel. If you would not mind, please like, comment, share, subscribe, all the above. Today we're reacting to Spectator TV, Candace Owens on trans investigations, I believe Pizzagate, Nick Fuentes, Trump's presidency, plus more. Hope you guys are having a blessed day. Let's get it.
In France, but there is something very sinister happening there without question. And it has been, like I said, happening for a very long time.
And to be clear, you did not buy Pizzagate. You didn't think that Hillary Clinton was running a secret pedophilic ring.
Yeah, I never did a minute of content on, I think they called it Pizzagate. Never did a minute of content towards Pizzagate. I didn't even look into the Pizzagate stuff. So again, it is an unusual story for me to take on. You know, if I had this pattern of going, this person's definitely a man, or this person's definitely a man, then you would go, okay, maybe she's just a conspiracy theorist. I was very compelled towards the story, and I believe fully that Brigitte Macron was actually born a boy named Jean-Michel Trogneau.
And can I ask just what draws
First of all, the fact that she's still denying Pizzagate when we all know that that's a real fact and a real thing that's involved with Epstein just blows my mind.
Two stories, because you've just done an interview with Harvey Weinstein, very interesting interview with Harvey Weinstein, and essentially you're saying Harvey Weinstein, though a creep and a slob, was innocent of rape, and yet he is serving a very heavy sentence for it.
He is. And again, I guess what drove me to that story, somebody had reached out, and I thought he was guilty of sin because the media coverage was just so extensive, and there were so many women that had come out and said something. But when I looked into the actual facts of the case, the evidence was just overwhelming. It's very difficult for me as a woman to believe somebody who's alleging that they were raped over the course of 5 years. And we're not talking about like this was an 18-year-old or a 17-year-old. These are 30-year-old women, and you could read a trove of emails that they wrote him. It looked like a very transactional relationship. You know, they wanted tickets to Cannes. They wanted him to help them get auditions. We know what Hollywood is and always has been. This looked like I would describe it, I don't know if you guys use this term in the UK, as a sugar daddy relationship, a sugar baby relationship. They would meet up with him, and then he would book them on tickets to France or to the UK and put them up in fancy hotels. And that's immoral and it's wrong. And he should have had to step down, because if you are immoral, you shouldn't be leading a company. But he's sitting in prison and being accused of the crime of rape. Right. I think it does a tremendous disservice to the women who are actually raped to say, you know, I wrote to my accuser for 5 years after my rape and said, love you, miss you. This is the circumstance of the Harvey Weinstein case. Even one woman who, after her quote unquote rape, wrote him and said, hey, my mom's in town. Do you want to meet my mom? Like, can I come over? Just not the traditional thing that you think people that are raped might do. And so it's important to tell that story, because it can even happen to somebody who.
That means at least some people are seeing it. Hope, like literally my bigger channel with like almost 23,000 subscribers, I've been getting like 1 view on like all the videos. I had record views, but then when Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes did the interview and it went mega viral, I got a copyright strike. And ever since that day, no one is seeing my stuff besides very few people. And it just changed like that overnight. It's crazy. But anyways, it's good to see some people are seeing the content. Hope you're having a blessed night.
It's powerful, right? The thing that draws me to any story is just, it has to be a kernel of truth. And also, I'm quite scared by the idea of mainstream corruption as well. You know, the idea that we can believe the media after they put together a circus, and we're actually left with very little fact.
Well, and I think you hit on something that I suspect is true, that the Me Too scandal was very often, or lots of examples of Me Too scandals were companies or people trying to take people out professionally. It's a great way of taking someone out professionally, is to accuse them of being a sexual predator.
That's correct. And it's
the whole Me Too movement started over a lie. That was Amber Heard, Johnny Depp's ex. The whole Me Too movement started at that time. And since then, a lot of these woke women, not saying all aren't, let's say, innocent, but a lot of them do lie. And it's continued. The Me Too movement was based on lies.
For a very long time. And look, I obviously have a personal investment in this. I have 3 sons and I have a husband. And so I think it's incumbent upon women especially to speak up and to say something, because men can't. If a guy did a series saying Harvey Weinstein was not guilty, they would have gone, are you out of your mind? What's in your closet? What have you done to women in your past? And so I was happy to take that on. It's important to me. I think the Me Too movement is an absolute disaster. We shouldn't hashtag believe women. We shouldn't hashtag believe men. We should hashtag follow the facts, because both men and women lie.
True. Do you not worry a little bit though that, I mean, I've seen people call it transvestigation, that essentially similar to Me Too, you can just say anyone is in the wrong sex, and if you say it enough, you create this doubt about them.
Thank you, Greg. My channel is beginning shadow banned like never before this past month since Candace gave me a strike, or whoever runs her channel. I got a strike from it, the Nick Fuentes Candace video, but it's good to see some people are still seeing my videos.
And that, you know, that is quite a hurtful and damaging thing to do to someone, whether or not Bridget Macron's a terrible person, whether or not she's committed paedophilia by marrying her husband or having a relationship with her husband. It's quite a dangerous and risky thing you're doing.
And I wouldn't have taken the risk unless I believed it to be true, because at the end of the day, it would have made me look like a fool. If I had put together a 7-hour series and I said, she's a woman because I think that she just doesn't look great in a skirt, who does that hurt? It hurts me. It doesn't hurt her. People that, you know, if you are going to engage and your best evidence is she kind of looks like a man, that doesn't work. There are women that have more masculine looking features. There are men that have more feminine looking features. The reason why people were drawn to this series and it got millions of views wasn't because I was spewing nonsense. It was because I was presenting the story backed with concrete facts. And people watch the series and they come out and they go, yeah, I think that's a man. And again, the bar is so low. The bar is set so low here to disprove that theory. No person in their right mind, it's the common sense element here. You would not file a lawsuit in a foreign country before you would just release some photos of yourself for 30 years. Like, that seems like a lot easier of a thing to do. And then to come out and give a press conference and say, conspiracy theories are harmful. My family has been hurt by this. We are releasing these photos because we want to show to the world how easy it is for you to be convinced of something that simply is not true. You could turn it into a moment. They're not doing that. They're fighting in the courts, and they've hired a PR team in the United States. Not, again, getting on a plane and asking Trump to personally call me and shut me up. None of this is.
Yeah, you'd think Trump would want to put out a statement at least defending Candace, regardless if he agrees or not. I've actually watched a couple of the videos, and it is credible. I mean, France's first lady is a dude. I mean, if you had proof, just release a picture, birth certificate, pictures of you when you were younger. It is so simple to prove you're not a dude, but we know he is a dude, and that's why they don't want to put it out. And now they're actually suing Candace Owens. But we have a thing called freedom of speech in America. So Trump should make a statement on this. He was groomed as a child. It's disgusting if you actually know the backstory of France's first lady, as you call it, and the president.
Normal when you could debunk something so easily.
Yes, the Donald Trump story, I should have mentioned that earlier, that he lent on you himself to stop talking about the Bridget Macron story.
Yeah, Emmanuel Macron flew to the White House back in February, flew to DC back in February, ostensibly to discuss Russia and Ukraine on the very day that he was there, which leads me to believe that this wasn't a small part of the conversation, right? On the very day that he was there, I was contacted by the White House and told that essentially Emmanuel Macron took Trump to the side and wants me to stop talking about.
That's what I've been saying, Hope. I have been saying this. Michelle Obama is a man. I want some evidence. Have you seen, by the way, anyone, you want a conspiracy theory? Here you go. Look into the Obama's kids. They are pretty much distant from them. I feel like they're not even their real kids. I mean, do we have real, not AI, pregnant pictures? I mean, he has literally come out on podcasts, even if it was a misspeaking. But I'm telling you, they always say the truth in front of us. We just think it's a joke. Michelle Obama came out recently on her podcast with her brother and said she was a dude. I mean, you have Obama on this podcast last week, was it? Promoting gay people. There needs to be a gay man, and every man, as he grows up, like kid, needs to have a gay man to help guide him or something like that. I saw it trending on X. Like, there's something weird going on about the Obama family.
And the person who relayed this to me before Trump called me the next day said that it was a contingency on the Ukraine-Russia conversation, which is ridiculous. I mean, he should be impeached. It should be absolutely impeached if that contingency is true. When Trump called me the next day, he basically said he was very surprised, but Emmanuel Macron took him aside and basically asked if he could get me to stop talking about Brigitte. And I'm going, this is totally wacky. This is just totally bizarre. Brigitte could get everyone to stop talking about Brigitte by just releasing the photos. And I said to him that I would not speak about Brigitte for a few months while they were kind of, I think he was looking for a signature on some document pertaining to the EU. But then certainly, of course, because speech is important and there's nothing more American than free speech, I would speak about it months later, which is exactly what I did.
We should talk about Trump a bit, actually, because your sort of history with Trump is quite interesting. You were a keen supporter. He was a fan of you. He was appreciated you and recognized that you were an powerful, important media voice. And then it seems you've completely fallen out, and largely over Gaza. Am I correct in saying that?
You are correct in saying that. There's just certain things that you can't look away from. And what's happening in Gaza, to me, it's just a moment. Are you a human? Or are you not a human? And I have just been, and also the Epstein fumble as well.
Yeah, as we know, Iraq wasn't a war we should have been in. We know that now. Everyone talks about it, especially on the right, how they regret it. Same thing in Gaza, but with Israel right now. People are getting starved, tortured, not fed. We got to come to a point where we call out a spade. We know what's going on in Gaza, and I'm not a fan of either. I want to stick to American politics and helping only America. But what Israel is doing to Gaza, it is genocide. I don't see how anyone can't say it. I understand a response by Israel, but when this has been going on for as long as it has been, it doesn't look good. And anyone who knows who my favorite is lately, it is Nick Fuentes, and he's been exposing all of that.
Running on that, saying, we all understand that there is real power and there's real corruption, and then to effectively gaslight your supporters and say, why are we still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? What do you mean, why aren't we still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? If there's been a blackmail ring and politicians are supporting things because they have been blackmailed, we need to know that's very important. So I've been very disappointed in him.
Why do you think he did fumble the Epstein story? Do you buy this, what the Wall Street Journal's reporting, that he's in the files, that he sent this bawdy card to birthday card to Jeffrey Epstein?
I don't.
Before she answers, I think that he's not in the files, or maybe when it comes to taking some flights, but I don't think he did any bad things, because we all know if that was the case, the last administration would have put it out when they had the files. Facts.
The birthday
It still doesn't look good, though, not releasing them.
Because Trump immediately came out and said this is not true and sued. But it is interesting that regarding him being in the files, when that was reported, it might have been Reuters who reported that, they said that he was surprised in May when Pam Bondi sat down for a meeting and said, you're actually in these files. He never debunked that. He never said that report was not true. And it makes the most sense given the timeline of how quickly he flipped from the Epstein story. Like February, they're talking about it. March, they're talking about it. And all of a sudden in May, he's going, why are we still talking about Epstein? So something shifted. And I think that likely makes sense. Now, do I believe that Donald Trump was on Epstein Island? No. Do we know that he partied with Epstein in his youth? Yes, we know that. Trump has never been a drinker. He's never done drugs. But in looking into this story, Trump did run Miss Universe for a very long time. And we know that Epstein's interests, he was always involved in casting women through these companies that he was trafficking. I think it's Jean-Luc Brunel was running a modeling agency that he was apparently trafficking women through. It might be that he got caught up. And again, I'm totally surmising here. There's no evidence of this. I want to be clear.
Yeah, none.
And I'm just thinking logically, he could have accidentally gotten caught up in something and not recognized it.
Still looks terrible. Release the damn files.
The bigger point is that he could have come to his supporters and said, look, I'm very surprised to hear this. I have nothing to do with anything that happened on that island. He could have gotten ahead of it. When you choose to gaslight the public, you have become exactly what you knew that we hated when we sent you into DC. More dishonest politicians, assuming that they are smarter than the people that they govern over. And they're not. They simply aren't.
They're a lot dumber.
Well, I take your point about gaslighting, but I have to say,
our politicians are so much dumber, I feel like, than your normal everyday voter. That's just what I think.
I felt like I was taking crazy pills because it is, whatever the truth of the matter, it is a maddening story, the Bridget Macron story, is it not? Do you ever feel that you've maybe taken crazy pills and you've become a conspiracy theorist?
On the Brigitte Macron stuff, absolutely not. If I feel like I've ever taken crazy pills, it's like, I'm on no sleep. I've got an infant and I have to get up and go to work. That's the only time where I'm like, how am I alive? But the Brigitte Macron story is one of the most fascinating stories ever. And in a sane world, I would be given a Pulitzer. I would be given a Pulitzer for this story, for bringing this to the world. And I think I'm just the right person to take this on. I think, I've built up trust with my audience, and they just know that I just wouldn't dabble in this for just no reason. It's so silly. You
lost a shit ton of trust, I feel like, when it came to the Nick Fuentes interview, but that's just what I've been seeing in the comment section.
You only do yourself a disservice when you lie. Exactly what I'm saying about Trump. You only do yourself a disservice. And I think in the end, the truth always wins. And that may take time to get there, but we are going to get there with Brigitte. And gratefully, they sort of lit a match on dynamite here by filing a lawsuit against me, because the way the American courts work is you're going to have to now answer those questions that we were just trying to get you to answer before we ran the first episode. So I don't understand what this entire song and dance is even about.
On Gaza, Candace, I mean, I think a lot of people, probably most of the world now, agrees with your position that what Israel is doing is morally unacceptable, abhorrent, etc. But I think there's a lot of suspicion of you that you have gone from that into full-on Jew hatred. How do you respond to that allegation of anti-Semitism?
Well, they say everything's anti-Semitic these days, okay? Like, this is just becoming ridiculous. If you point out what Israel is doing, if you point out the hold that Israel has over our politicians, or that they were connected through Epstein, you're an anti-Semite. It's whatever it's called, anti-Semite. So dumb.
First and foremost, I do feel somewhat vindicated, because initially when the press began referring to me as an anti-Semite and taking things that I had said out of context, it was only because I had taken an earlier position on Gaza. Everyone got there now. I was there 2 years ago. And so I went through the coals. And that's why I say it's so important to commit yourself to the truth, even when there's a peer pressure campaign to say the other thing, even when you're being called an anti-Semite. Now you're seeing Jews are being called anti-Semitic. People that live in Israel are being called anti-Semitic and being called self-hating Jews, who are saying what my government is doing is they are committing a genocide. I was early to that party, like I'm early to the Brigitte Macron party. Of course, it is such a nonsense. Anybody who cared to do any due diligence into my life, it's a nonsense to say that I have hatred for Jews. I worked for Prager University. It is a literal Zionist enterprise that is run by an IDF intelligence, Marissa Straight. I then worked for the Daily Wire, which is run by Ben Shapiro. Prior to that, I worked in private equity for two Jews in New York for 4 years. And I almost married a Jew, actually, while I was in New York. And so they're obviously not doing that because they believe it. Like I said, any incursion into my past and my history would debunk this. I grew up in a remarkably Jewish town just outside of New York City. But I am not, I'm the same girl that stood up to Black Lives Matter, right? I don't care about your identity. I know when people are calling people racist because they are trying to stop the conversation. It was very tough when I said I don't support Black Lives Matter as a Black person. You're a self-hating Black. I am definitely sharpened. I know exactly what's happening when you start using your identity as a shield. And it just doesn't work with me. What's happening in Gaza is atrocious.
Well, you married a self-hating Brit instead, which is... Which is sorry, not self-hating. What am I saying? Sorry, I meant to say you married a Brit. Sorry, let me start that again. I don't know whether your husband's self-hating. I'm self-hating. Okay, let me start again.
I didn't know where we were going with that.
Sorry.
You're like, you married an American, you hate yourself. Meghan Markle did that.
Sorry.
That's what happened.
Let me start that again. I'm very sorry, Candace. I lost my train of thought.
This is very funny.
I'll say it again.
Keep it. That's hilarious.
Well, you married a Brit, which, as a self-hating Brit, I think is sort of almost quite striking. Anyway, never mind. Let's move on. I wanted to just briefly ask you, and I will let you go after this, about an interview you did with Nick Fuentes, because
Nick Fuentes
is a figure who creates a lot of interest on the internet, even though
Nick Fuentes says the truth before it's a cool thing to do. Bam!
He says it's considered totally beyond the pale by a lot of mainstream society and so on. You had him onto your show, and you had quite a cantankerous interview. Can you just tell us a little bit about what happened there?
I had record views when I did that interview, like 100,000 plus, like record stats. After that night, I got that copyright strike. All of my stats have just boop. I was having hundreds, on my lives. Now it's like 2 or 3. It's crazy what YouTube can do over one copyright strike. It just changes overnight. Blows my mind.
Because I didn't really consider the interview to be cantankerous. I think his reaction to the interview made the internet think that it was going to be cantankerous. He was very friendly when he was here at my house. We told him we were going to cut a controversial trailer. He laughed. Everything was fine. And then 10 days later, he completely flipped when we released it. And so I had to think about why he did that, why he was so dishonest, pretending that we set him up when we were laughing about the trailer that we were going to cut. And then he pretends, he's so fragile. And if he thought that that was a testy interview, he just would not make it in politics. I've had testy interviews. I've had people take clips.
Who thinks that Nick Fuentes exposed Candace in their little interview? No, it was not. It was far from an interview. Anyone who watched it knows that. I even see Candace Owens, like diehard fans, saying that exact thing, that she looked terrible in that interview. She came across as a Karen who was triggered.
Took me out of context and had to really defend myself. That was me just trying to get to the root of who this person was and asking him, perhaps wrongly, people have said that you hate Jews. He says he doesn't hate Jews. Okay, fine. I'll accept that at face value. But then can you explain to me why you hate Dave Smith? If it's just an Israel thing, Dave Smith is Jewish, but he hates Israel. I don't think he provided an adequate answer for that. And so maybe he afterwards said he changed his mind about the interview 10 days later. I think that's a bit of a nonsense. Look, my estimation of Nick is that he is comfortable where he doesn't have to defend his ideas.
I have to pause it for Greg. Great freaking point. I just came across him like a month and a half ago, and I listen to him the most now. I've always heard great things about Nick. I heard bad things, so I never even gave him the chance. Never had the chance to watch him until now. I must say he is exceptionally intelligent, highly logical. Yes, I agree.
You get what I mean? And that is why he's kind of jumped into this sort of victim complex where having a conversation with people and disagreeing with them, like I don't agree with his perspectives, makes him angry. I mean, the anger that he showed after, you would have thought that I like stabbed him in the back. And that's just not the experience that we had here. We would have had him back on the show. But I'm not going to put my team through that. You pretend everything's fine and then say you magically change your mind. And then you put on, to me, it looked like it was just theater. He was acting at a certain point, shut up, woman. And I tried to think afterwards about what it is that offended him so much, because then he said that I was stuck up and, it was trying to mom him. I think he was expecting a response. So if you sit across from a Black woman, you say, I'm a racist. You're doing that to troll a response. And I didn't give him the response that he was looking for. So I'm not interested in that. If you want to jump on the internet and say the N-word and you want to call, I hate Black people, that might be very funny and interesting for people.
Nick broke Candace. Like this is just a bad look on her. And I used to be a huge Candace fan, but damn, she looks like a liar right now. Liar, triggered Karen.
That are young boys. I know kids on video games, they have the chats and they say the N-word 1,000 times. It's just not interesting to me. It's not compelling to me. And so what he took as perhaps conceit was generally just intellectual boredom. Like if you genuinely have something to say about how white people are being attacked, I can get there, or having that, but saying like, I want my children to look like me. What do you think about that? It feels like you're trolling or an emotional response. And I'm just not that emotional. You have every right. If you don't want to date or marry a Black person, that's on you. If you want to say the N-word on the internet, have fun. It just doesn't insult me, truly.
Did you know about Nick Fuentes? Did you find out about Nick Fuentes because of Kanye West? Because I know that Kanye West once tweeted about you, and that blew up in a big way. And then Nick Fuentes worked on Kanye West's presidential campaign, I think, at one point.
Yeah, he was kicked off of Twitter and canceled, and I became aware of Nick Fuentes because people were actually creating a conspiracy theory about me, saying that when I said that I didn't support what was happening in Israel, that I was working behind the scenes with Nick Fuentes and the Groypers, because I guess on Nick's show, he was sharing a lot of clips of me and saying that like she's taking a stance on something because we hold the same opinion about Bibi Netanyahu. That's without question. And so they wrongly attributed him to me. But then when Elon Musk allowed him back onto X, I saw clips of him. And when he's not being a raging, angry, I think he acts like a bit like a teenager. He does when he gets just into foreign, when he's talking about foreign policy, he's quite interesting. And that was his interest. If you saw when he recounted his story, he was on.
And he spoke on this and said how they didn't even talk about the war, talk about all the crazy stuff that's happening. It was literally like a hit piece of her saying, "I don't know you. You text this and this. Why do you attack me?" This woman is insane.
Model UN in high school. He was very interested in foreign affairs, and you can see that. But then I think that he feels like he has to respond to the internet, and he thinks it's really cool to, say the N-word or call a woman a bitch. And genuinely, I'm not interested. It doesn't offend me. I'm not interested. I don't grow from it. Look, I'm 36 years old. Maybe that's why I'm not like, haha, that's so cool. It's so funny. Yeah, he said the thing you're not allowed to say. It's like, okay. If he stuck to just foreign policy analysis and gave up that bit of theater where he pretends like he's always being victimized, and I thought that maybe he was ready for that, to make that transition from the 18-year-old that was rejected to kind of being like, look, I've said some stupid stuff, and I now kind of want to enter in seriously and talk about foreign policy. But I don't believe that's the case. I think he's comfortable where he is, which is like screaming and pretending that he's constantly being victimized by conversation.
This woman's a nut job, and I used to be a huge fan of her. She is a nut job. There would have been a policy discussion if you would have asked him policy questions, you idiot. Sorry, I just can't stand grifters like this. Yeah, literally the whole time she was just trying to attack his character, pretty much judge him because he's not married and wants to wait. I don't understand where all this hatred is coming from, but she is exposing herself anytime she opens her mouth. It's like she becomes triggered the minute Nick Fuentes comes into the conversation. Oh, sorry, guys. I had to say that.
Candace, we'll end it there, but thank you very much indeed for coming on to the Americano Show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I guess that was all, folks. I hope you guys have a great night. I'll continue posting every night. Have a blessed day with you and your